Hello, I'm Dr. Jim Pugh. I'm Head of Education at Staffordshire University. We've been asked by some of our students and colleagues if we have any tips for parents of young children during the lockdown. So, with the help of some of our initial teacher training academics and the schools we work with, we have put together these 5 top tips to offer you some support. Tip number 1, don't panic. Teachers are developed and supported over a well-designed teacher training courses in partnerships with schools and mentors. You can't replicate this over lockdown, and don't beat yourself up over it.
Hi, my name's Sarah Misra and I'm one of the lecturers here at Staffordshire University. My tip for you is about how to support your child with reading during the lockdown. For younger children in nursery or Key Stage 1 who are still learning to read, this is a great opportunity to share some quality time reading stories together. Don't focus too much on the phonics aspect of reading. This will be picked up by the teacher when your child returns to school. Instead, when you read with your child, try to focus on creating an enjoyment of reading. Sharing a book together is a wonderful opportunity to bond. Read the story to your child and enjoy looking at the pictures together. Discuss the characters. Don't forget to do the voices. That's the best bit. You can make a story more interesting and help your child to develop their understanding of a book by linking it to real life. For example, if you were reading about Cinderella going to the ball, you could talk about how a ball is similar to a special party with lots of dancing. Then you could ask your child to describe the ball from their imagination. What are the characters wearing? What are they eating? What are they doing? For older children or more confident readers, it can be nice simply to read your own books in the same space. It's great to model these behaviours and embed them, and you can make time afterwards to discuss your stories together and the characters with each other, and this will help your children to understand what they've read. Try to encourage them to read for fun, not just read for learning. If you don't have many books available, there are some great resources on the internet. For example, children's book author and illustrator Rob Biddulph is running draw-along videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m, which you can leave your children to follow, armed with a pencil and paper, while you get some of your own jobs done. You could also access the Libraries Connected website, which have some great online activities such as story times and clubs, which you can maybe enjoy together. Don't underestimate the magic of a bedtime story for any age. For children and adults who may find themselves separated during this time, this could even take place through a video link. Not only is the physical act of reading out loud a lovely way to bond and build trust, but doing so regularly has been proven to strengthen language, vocabulary, and concentration for life. Finally, for those reluctant readers, just think about alternatives. Maybe they love a non-fiction book or comic. And don't forget about audiobooks, because these are a way to build a love of stories and language without the difficulties of the child having to decode the words, which can sometimes spoil enjoyment and flow. Reading to children has magical powers. It teaches them to laugh and to cry, to be empathetic, to wonder and to care. It stimulates their imagination and expands their understanding of the world. I do hope you get to enjoy this precious time together, and I hope these tips have been useful.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Burney. I'm one of the lecturers at Staffordshire University, and I've got some ideas for you to work around the theme of talking today. So, first and foremost, list generation. This is where you create a list connected to a particular object. So you might say, what's in my bag? What's in my bag?
My reading book.
Also in my bag is my pen.
So my reading book and my pen.
An eraser.
My reading book, my pen and an eraser.
And you carry on that theme there. You can then go on to alphabetical games. So it could have any theme at all, depending on the age of the children you're working with. So for example, we could start off with animals. So I would start off with aardvark.
And bat.
Cow.
Dog.
and you carry on that theme there. You could use, for example, countries, any theme at all that would work with there. And you can also then move on to role play. This is where you pretend to be a particular character. So I'm going to be a film star, and my partner is going to ask me all sorts of questions connected to me being a film star.
Where do you live?
I live in Hollywood in America.
What's your house like?
My house is enormous. It's got the biggest swimming pool you've ever seen.
How deep is your swimming pool?
My swimming pool is unbelievably deep.
Do you have a diving board?
I do have a massive diving board. You get the idea. The idea also is that you actually get into being a character. So if you are a film star, you're larger than life, animated, you maybe want to do a little bit of dancing. It's completely up to you. Can then move on to the idea of draw my picture. The idea here is you get a picture from the internet, from a magazine, from a newspaper, and you describe that picture. Now, obviously, if you're working with the younger children, you would use a picture that's very, very basic. The child would then actually draw that picture. If you're working with older children, get a more complex picture. And the idea is ultimately the picture looks very, very, or as closely as possible, similar to the picture that you're actually looking at. It's a lot of fun. Then you've got your favourite. Very simple. You just ask, what's your favourite? You can choose any theme at all. So I would start off with, what's your favourite food?
Chicken curry.
Why chicken curry?
Because I love the spices.
Excellent. And you just build up that, and you obviously take it in turns to ask each other questions. And then finally, you are actually visualizing an imaginary place. So working together, you draw a picture. So you hand the picture from one person to the other. So you start off with my imaginary planet. So the first line of description would, the planet has a massive moon. So the person would draw the moon. You then pass it backwards and forwards. So you're gradually building up that description. Ultimately, you are working together. These are just very basic ideas that you can really enjoy, and the idea behind them is to make it fun. You are talking. These are challenging times for all children and indeed us all, so the idea of having an opportunity to sit down and talk to your child is going to be of great benefit. I hope you found these useful. Bye for now.
Hi, my name's Emma Wilkes and I'm one of the lecturing team on the primary courses here at Staffs. So my tip for you is all about consolidation. So many of us at the moment are trying to manage our own workloads as we find ourselves working at home, alongside trying to support our children through the homeschooling process. So what I would suggest is, rather than trying to always push your children's learning forward and provide that challenge to replicate what happens in school, think about spending this time to consolidate the skills they may already have. So what this will enable you to do is to keep their brains ticking over and to keep, going with the process of learning without actually creating an additional sort of tension and workload for everybody involved, really. So, for example, if you have a Year 5 child at home and they're finding the Year 5 work that you can access online challenging, have a go at just going back to Year 4 and consolidating some of that learning. There is no problem at this current time in working on those skills to really embed what they already know, rather than always thinking that you have to push them forward to learn something new. And hopefully that will be a little bit more enjoyable and a little bit less pressured and stressful for both the children and for yourselves trying to work and manage this at this time.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gardner and I'm one of the lecturers here in the Primary Education Department at Staffordshire University. While we're in lockdown, make the most of the time to enjoy with your children, and you can do lots of activities at home with things that you've got around the house without the need of specialist educational resources. One of the great things that we can do whilst we're still allowed to do daily exercise is to go on walks around the countryside. Take a magnifying glass with you and have a look at the bugs and insects and talk about their habitats, where we find them. Bees, for example, gravitate to flowers in quest to make honey. Caterpillars are found on leaves for camouflage and also for their food. And collect things along the way, and when you get home you can get the children to make a body perhaps out of clay or Play-Doh, and then use the things like leaves, cones, twigs to make their own bug. Lots of people have also been involved in baking, which is a great activity, and get the children to chop, with supervision if you're using a sharp knife, and mix, which is great for children's fine motor skills, which help them with their writing later on. Also get children to weigh and measure the ingredients. And for older children, following the instructions in a recipe is great to consolidate reading skills. If you're making homemade pizzas, there's great discussions around healthy eating and fractions as you divide the pizza perhaps up into equal slices. Lots of children involved in water play enjoy that, and you can fill a bath if it's raining outside, or a paddling pool, putting in sea creatures to talk about, or getting a fishing net and fishing out letters or numbers to consolidate those with younger children. And for older children, perhaps thinking about things around the house, just grabbing a few things like a cork or a tin or something. Does it float? Does it sink? Why do you think that? And making those predictions. Lots of people are at home at the moment, and the news is telling us that recycling is building up, so use those additional cartons and boxes to make some junk modelling with the children. Also, you can use things like tinfoil to make sculptures, paper you can fold and cut in different ways to make a paper sculpture, making Play-Doh, all those sorts of things. And my final tip is put some music on, get dancing. For older children, they might make their own routine. Main thing is to have fun. Stay safe, everyone.
We hope these tips have been useful, and if you're the type of parent that has enjoyed being involved in the development of their child's learning, then have a look at our website and get in touch. Maybe teaching is for you, and we can be here to help you start you on that path to becoming a teacher.